Go ahead and call your first witness, prosecutor. What if the prosecutor just says, I rest, without calling any witnesses, without putting on any evidence?
This is a community-supported legal education channel. Find out how you can support our mission at the links in the description below.
So this week saw an attorney representing her client get arrested for contempt of court simply for reading the law to the judge. The law which was relevant, the law which was in furtherance of her argument in favor of her client, but might have been contempt of court. So let's talk about Susan Church and Judge Richard Sinnott in Boston. There was a protest and a counter-protest, or rather a march and a counter-protest in Boston. And thanks to YouTube censorship, I don't feel like I can really mention anything about the topic that they were marching for. But let's just say that they were controversial figures who were marching in Boston, and counter-protesters turned out in large numbers to support the anti-march message, to support a more broad message instead of a single message to benefit one. It's strange. We could talk about it all day, but we can't talk about it on YouTube. YouTube has made it abundantly clear that anything talking about LGBTQ is automatically demonetized. And in fact, since I mentioned those letters, it's probably demonetized already. Thanks, YouTube. What a great world we live in. So, that aside, attorney Susan Church was representing a counter-protester, or rather a group of counter-protesters, who were arrested. Now, I don't know all the details. We are looking into the transcripts. We are looking into why the protesters were arrested, but things I'm going to assume are that the protesters and marchers themselves, all by themselves, that was okay, and then there were some people who got in trouble. There were some people, I think on both sides, who got arrested for taking things too far. So that can mean simple things like not listening to the police when they tell you that you're in the wrong area and you have to disperse. Well, wait a second, I have a First Amendment right to protest wherever and whenever I want. No, you don't! You have a First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, and the Supreme Court has read that to mean that there can be reasonable, which has been read to mean very limited, very light restrictions on the place and time of your protest. Basically, you can't interfere with someone else's right to protest. So if you're blocking the march, or if you are attacking the marchers or whatever, that's gonna cross the line. You can protest from a small distance, but it still has to be some kind of distance so that you're not interfering directly with their march. And likewise, they can't interfere with your peaceful assembly protest. And if the protest is going to be large and organized, you need to have a permit. The permits have to be freely given, but the permits can designate more or less the time and the place. Now, this gets difficult because if someone in the government tries to deny the permit or tries to assign the permit to a faraway area where their protest will not really mean anything, well, that's also a violation. So you're allowed to protest, you're just not allowed to interfere directly with someone else's right to protest. This is the same analogy as I have the right to swing my fists until I, connect with your face. It's a little bit different than that. I have the right to swing my fists so long as I'm not actually entering like the minor zone around your body that you feel someone's going to connect with you. So you have the right not only to not be hit by my fist, but you have the right to not be in immediate reasonable fear of me actually hitting you because I'm going like this right in front of your face. So similarly, you have the right to protest and not have anti-protesters or counter-protesters directly interfere with your right to protest. Certainly, counter-protesters can also protest. It's the direct interference, the physical direct interference. So that is likely what Susan Church was in court this week defending. I don't mean defending in the moral sense, I mean putting on a proper legal defense. And proper it was. because the judge, Judge Richard Sinnott of a Boston municipal court, was denying the district attorney's request, not Susan Church, was denying the prosecuting attorney's attempts to null pros or dismiss cases that they've chosen not to prosecute. In the United States, we have a very, very powerful and sometimes corrupt doctrine called prosecutorial discretion. The prosecutor has the discretion to decide who to prosecute. And you have seen sometimes that prosecutors will refuse to prosecute in cases that are controversial. Sometimes police officers who have arguably committed egregious crimes or other acts of misconduct will sometimes simply not get prosecuted because the prosecutor can make that decision. And that, I believe, is a source of corruption in the United States. Say hello to Kaylee. Prosecutorial discretion can be a source of corruption, as a prosecutor could make the decision not to prosecute based on some improper motive, like maybe being in favor of police officers even if they commit some kind of misconduct. Maybe I shouldn't be focusing on the police officer example, but it's a very clear example of when a prosecutorial discretion decision might result in someone not being prosecuted for an egregious act. Well, the prosecutor in Boston, not Susan Church, not the contempt of court, not the arrestee, the prosecutor was dismissing some of the counter-protesters' charges. And those reasons might be that the counter-protest went on fine and everything was fine as soon as they removed the offending individuals. And why give the offending individual a black mark on their record if really all they did was just advocate for their cause? Many times prosecutors will agree to dismiss minor acts of misconduct. You don't beat the ride, but you do beat the time. Susan Church then, being the defendant's attorney, I think a group of defendants, who were having their cases dismissed, the defense attorney is very interested in making sure that those cases actually get dismissed. So when Judge Richard Sinnott denied the prosecutor's right, the prosecutor's discretion to dismiss the case, Susan Church was upset in the legal sense, probably a little bit in the moral sense too, because the judge doesn't have the right to deny the prosecutor the discretion to prosecute the case. Follow this out with me. Let's pretend I'm a judge who has denied the prosecutor their right to dismiss a case. Go ahead and call your first witness, prosecutor. The prosecutor's denied the right to dismiss the case, now has to put on the case. What if the prosecutor just says, I rest my case, without calling any witnesses, without putting on any evidence? Well, what happens? Well, the judge can't prosecute that case. The jury can't decide that case in any way except dismissal. So why? Why would you deny the district attorney their discretion to dismiss the case? We could argue all day over whether the dismissal was proper. We could argue all day. In fact, I've written, and I'm still writing, since the beginning of Lawful Masses, a prosecutorial discretion story that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually I have to shoot the engineer and start production here. But the point is, prosecutorial discretion is a massive topic that we could go over for hours, if not days, of videos, because there are various scenarios around the world. France has compulsory prosecution, not prosecutorial discretion. There's some exceptions to that, so I need to learn more about that myself too. The point is, Judge Richard Sinnott then denied the prosecutor's decision to null pros or dismiss the cases. And then Susan Church, the defense attorney, read to the judge the law about how the judge has no power to deny the prosecutor said discretion. Well, it's said that the judge told her to stop talking. The judge told her that she would be held in contempt, and the judge gave her a last warning. But she continued to read the relevant case law to the judge, reinforcing that he's supposed to dismiss the case. It is the law. There's no question. There is no controversy, and there is no reasonable basis for the attorney/judge, because remember, the judge has a law license, right? Usually, in these cases, the judge has to be a lawyer. I don't know how Boston's municipal court works. In Pennsylvania, they don't have to be a lawyer, but they usually have to have legal experience. Usually it's either a lawyer or a retired police officer who becomes a municipal court judge. So it's possible that Judge Richard Sinnott is not a lawyer. But either way, Judge Richard Sinnott has no reasonable basis to believe that there's controversy around null prosing or dismissing charges that the prosecutor has agreed to dismiss. So the judge is way out of line here. But it's the judge's courtroom, and Susan Church is still reading. She is still speaking, arguably speaking over the judge who has told her to stop. So he holds her in contempt, orders her arrested, and throws her in the holding cell in the lower levels of the courthouse for 2 hours until, I guess, the proceedings are over, and then he releases her, and she goes and makes a statement to the court, or to the press. Something along the lines of, this was unethical, outrageous, illegal behavior, pretty much. Now, I haven't seen any complaint or anything or any new filing, but the judge should be receiving some kind of filing confirming that the law is that these cases have to be dismissed. So I fully expect that the charges against the protesters will eventually be dismissed if they haven't already. That's the law, and the judge is quite wrong about that. So then, was Susan Church wrong, and should she have been held in contempt for continuing to read the law to the judge? Now, it wasn't like she was reading the law that wasn't relevant, or it wasn't like she was mouthing off to the judge, but she was speaking when she was told not to. But she was reading the law that her clients needed her to read to get the case dismissed, to confirm to the judge that the case is supposed to be dismissed. These are really simple issues, but yet we've had this entire major blow-up about this. These things are supposed to be dismissed, so did she do the right thing, is the question. And I think yes, I think she did the right thing, and I think any attorney in the same situation should continue to press the issue, because now we're talking about it. Now the entire country talked about it for a little while, and I saw on my lawyers' forums, some of my private lawyers' forums, this is one of the biggest issues that we've seen. A lawyer, their job is to create a record before the court so that the court can rule on a record. And that record has to be properly created within the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure and the substantive rule of law. So what's wrong with a defense attorney reading a few paragraphs of the relevant law explaining that a case has to be dismissed? I've had to do this before. I've had to explain to a judge that my client doesn't have to show up to municipal court if they're represented by an attorney in some cases. When I used to do traffic cases, I literally had a traffic court judge tell me that my client had to be there, and I had to go find the rule of law and show it to the judge. The judge didn't know the rule of law. That's normal. And the judge shouldn't be so arrogant as to think that they don't need to know the rule of law. And if they are so arrogant as to think they don't need to know the rule of law, well, shouldn't they then listen to the attorney who's telling them what it actually is? So I don't know that Susan Church is going to go after the judge or anything like that. She certainly did a great job advocating for her client and bringing attention to her client's case in a positive manner, because now we're all talking about it. We're all talking about whether it's allowed to arrest an attorney for doing their job. Now, you could also have the opinion that she was arrested for stepping on the judge's speech, that she spoke over the judge, and that's contemptuous, that's disrespectful. I would remind you, though, that in 2019, we no longer live in a world where judges can do whatever they want. Judges have limits too. Judges have to act within the law, and judges also have to act in an honorable and respectful manner. So, was the judge doing something wrong by telling her to stop speaking when all she's doing is creating a proper record for her defense, for her client's defense? I don't know. This one's going to be fun to watch. Maybe nothing will happen from here. The judge has said that he's done with it, that he released her, and that's all he expected, no fine or anything. So it could just simply be that this is the end of it. Are you okay with that? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like to see more of our videos. Please click the bell if you'd like to see our videos every day. We're getting lots of reports that YouTube's notification system is still very messed up. And even though we're releasing daily videos, our viewers do not see daily videos in their feed. So please click the bell if you want to make sure to see our daily videos. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. Thank you to our supporters for the month of September. Thank you to Joshua Davis and TandaPay, who are supporting our videos for the entire month, and we'll be doing a video on TandaPay itself. Please see the description below for links to TandaPay and the medium.com article that Mr. Davis has written. Thank you to our $50 supporters in the month of September. Thank you to John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Kyle Mudrak, Eevi, Michael Pearce, Spirit Bear, Jan Negrey, Daniel Perez, Snorre Wisotzky, Joe Tyson, and Blackleaf. And thank you to everyone else who is scrolling on the screen in front of me. I'll make sure that Brandon has access to some great footage from Luxembourg and Esch here to put in the crawl. Love you all. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you for the Sunday show tomorrow. That's probably going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time still, which is more like 4 p.m. Central European Summer Time here. Love you all. See you then.